Lamps Full Understandings. Subscribe, then like. You can help another attain until salvation. Spread the good news. Subscribe and like now. Bless your family and friends. Share now.
Let's have a little discussion concerning biblical celestial sign markers. This is brought to you by Lamps Full Understandings, which you can find under that heading in YouTube. Now, the third rail of prophecy in the Bible is the celestial signs. In rail transit, the third rail is the additional conductor used to supply electricity to trains. It's dangerous to touch. Figuratively, it refers to an issue that is extremely controversial and highly sensitive. Touching it could provoke strong negative reactions. The biblical topic of Yahweh's celestial signs is considered a third rail, primarily because it's not understood. Most would not even consider it biblical. But we see celestial signs within biblical prophecies whenever a description is given, such as the sun and the moon going dark, or a blood moon, or the sun and moon mentioned individually. Generally, these mentions are spiritualized away into meaninglessness without any significance or understanding at all. And here are some examples of references containing those celestial signs that I referred to. In the modern day, we now have astronomy applications which accurately allow us to go forward and backward in time to begin to discover, view, and understand how to locate and read the celestial signs mentioned in the Bible, and most notably within prophecies. Some tools of the trade are the Stellarium astronomy application, a Hebrew date converter online, NASA's catalog of solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. And so what we have below for you is just a primer on the fundamental verses that give us understanding of the reality of Yahweh's signs and a little bit about how they work. Yahweh ordained appointed celestial times. This is the foundational verse. Genesis 1 verse 14. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be 4 signs, 4 seasons, 4 days, and years. We understand most of this as the sun, the moon, and the stars, and we now calculate our days and years based on the movement of our planet around the sun. But when it comes to seasons, we think of our weather seasons. But that is not actually what is being referenced here. It's referencing signs and seasons, which are appointed times. Signs comes from the word oath, and oath is something that appears, a signal, a flag, a mark, a token, right? So this becomes a celestial position. Notably, the planets are used as the markers. The moon is used as a marker. The planet Jupiter represents Jesus within the celestial signs gospel, a type of Jesus in Joseph who was given a multicolored coat. And what we see in Jupiter is the largest planet that's going to shine the brightest with a multicolored surface. Jupiter is especially important as it acts like the hand of a clock. Where the hand is where you read the time. And in this case, the hand of the clock is going to be sitting on top of a constellation, of which there are 12 primary constellations and original constellations along the ecliptic. It's the path that the Earth moves around the sun. And by an apparent miracle, all the planets are on the same ecliptic, or very, very close to it. Our 8 planets are all on the same ecliptic. We also have a solar eclipse, which only happens in terms of a total solar eclipse, because the moon is the same apparent size of the sun. When it overlaps the sun, it overlaps it nearly completely. The only thing you can see is the outer edge corona during a total solar eclipse. That itself is another enigma. How did that happen so perfectly? Our moon has a 29.5 day lunar cycle. Within a year, the Jewish calendar counts 12 lunar cycles. Again, 12 is a significant number in the Bible, and 12 is a significant number within the celestial heavens. When you count 9.5 lunar cycles of 29.5 days each, you arrive at the calculation 280.25 days. 280 is the average normal gestation period of a human being. And this is why God could represent the conception and birth of John the Baptist and Jesus within the celestial signs, because the conception will occur on a full moon or new moon, and the birth will consequently occur 9.5 lunar cycles later on a full moon or new moon. The idea of a sign is a signal, a distinguishing mark, a token, a standard. It is possible many of the tribes of Israel, they had banners when they walked through the wilderness, ensigns. Many of those are the same characters, like Judah the lion, as in the constellation Leo the lion, are the same as constellations. I would not be surprised if all of those banners were actually pictures of the 12 constellations. The idea of seasons is Moedim, Moedah. And this is an appointment. This is a fixed time or season. It relates to the Jewish festivals. It's an assembly. And this is an appointed time, a sacred season, a set feast, right? So this has nothing to do with weather seasons. It has everything to do with appointed times, of which the feast meetings that God set up, beginning Nisan, month of months, were all prophecies, all prophetic of future appointed times in the timeline of Jesus. All the appointed times in Jesus' life were prophesied by these feasts, and the signs occur on the appointed times of the life of Jesus. For example, his birth. The birthday of Jesus is an appointed time of Adar 15. The entire story of Esther is a story, among other things, in which God chooses or divulges the birthday of Jesus. The fast day, or the genocide date, which becomes the future fast day of Adar 13, that genocide date was chosen by God through a lot. The lot would not say yes for most of the whole year. Hundreds and hundreds of attempts to choose the date, and the lot continued to say no. From the month of Nisan, day to day, month to month, they kept choosing the next available date until it eventually said yes on Adar 13. Only God can affect a lottery to be the outcome that he wishes. And so by the end of the story of Esther, two particular days were established. One, the 14th day, and then the 15th day as celebration days. The 15th day is noted as the celebration that relates to walled cities like Bethlehem and Jerusalem. And this 15th day of Adar, which is a party-like celebration from old to young, dancing in the streets, colorful costumes, plays, food, gifts, all kinds of festivity occurring every Adar 15. This is the birthday of Jesus, and why God has established these sacred festive days that were ordained to be kept without fail. not part of the Mosaic Law, but came in addition to it through the book of Esther, but nevertheless ordained that should be remembered and kept every generation and never forgotten. And so they have been keeping these festival days for some 2,500 years, not realizing they're celebrating the appointed time of the birthday of Jesus, which is in Adar 15. This appointed time in Esther, as it says, season, appointed time, is Zeman, appointed occasion, a season, a time, a set time, appointed time. It's a specific date for a specific reason in the timeline of Jesus. We come to the story of Jacob's ladder. It's a story of a ladder in a vision which is literally connected the heaven to the land of Israel. Joseph has a dream, and behold, a ladder is set up on the earth, touching the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, connected to the heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascended and descended upon it. So that this ladder is the prime highway between God and mankind on the earth for God's angels. And so this is all in a figure and in a symbol. And behold, the Lord stood above it. That is, God is standing at the top of the ladder from his heaven. Visionary impression of God at the top, looking straight down upon the land of Israel, saying, I am the Lord, God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. Right? And God provides this vision. What does it mean? The presence of God are his celestial signs. God's presence is at the top of that ladder. Their celestial signs are viewable and come into focus only when physically looking up from the location of Jerusalem. As Jacob is at the base of the ladder, looking up, straight up the ladder, he sees an impression of God. There's the story of Moses when God reveals himself and his glory to him. God in Exodus 33 says to Moses, my presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest, going into the promised land. And Moses says, if thy presence goes not with me, carry us not up to the promised land. And the Lord said to Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken. Now before this, God said, I am not going to go with you to the promised land, as in a burning mountain will be situated in the promised land and continually burn. My presence is not going to manifest like the way it is in the wilderness. So that's not going to happen. So Moses is concerned. How will your presence be with us? And the Lord said, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, in answer to Moses' concern. For thou hast found grace in my sight, and I know thee by name. And he said, I will make and call my goodness to pass before thee, and I'm going to proclaim my name. And he said, thou canst see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. So the face is too bright for Moses to see directly. And so the Lord hatches this plan where he's going to put Moses in a cleft of the rock. And then when his glory passes before him, that he's going to put thee in that cleft, and then he's going to take his hand while he passes by and cover the face of Moses so that he cannot see the brightness of God's face. But then as he passes by, he can remove his hand, but because Moses is inside the cleft of the rock, now he's only going to see the back parts, but my face shall not be seen. And so Isaiah 51 provides some commentary on what this means. God says, I have put my words in thy mouth, speaking of Moses and the law, put it into the mouth of Moses. And So I've given you my word. And I've also covered thee in the shadow of mine hand. Now the word and the hand are like the ladder. The hand of God is in the heaven as God is looking down, but the word of God is on the earth at the bottom of the ladder. And these two things are hardwired, connected by a ladder. God's prophetic word is going to be, in his Bible, is going to be in synchronicity with his celestial signs. And so when it says, I have covered thee in the shadow of mine hand, it's giving us the understanding that it's a representation of a solar eclipse. We have this very unique and improbable situation where every once in a while we get a total solar eclipse. And this is possible because God created the moon to be of just a distance and just a size that allows it to have the same apparent diameter as the sun on certain days, creating a total solar eclipse. And the moon, by virtue of being in between the earth and the sun, now casts a shadow on the earth. And as the moon reaches total eclipse, from the standpoint of the person witnessing from the ground, everything goes dark. The shadow has about a 1 mile radius width, and it's going to cover everybody that's underneath that shadow. And then he says, just like the ladder planted in the heavens and planted on the earth, I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth and say unto Zion, thou art my people. The celestial signs in coordination with the prophecies are only viewable from Jerusalem, in which they will come into biblical focus. You cannot go anywhere else in the world and find the synchronicity between the actual moment that the prophetic event is occurring on the earth in synchronicity as that same moment the celestial sign is appearing in the heaven. We see this in the New Testament in the example of the birth of Jesus, which is marked by a celestial event because it's an appointed time. Wise men come from the east to Jerusalem, and they say, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. They have seen a celestial sign that they have come to understand because they have received the writings of Daniel. Daniel speaks of himself giving his writings to his lieutenants. Here in Daniel 7, it says, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed, and Daniel wrote the dream, and Daniel told the sum of the matters. He told his chief head the words and the main facts of his dreams and visions. We are told that Daniel passed along to his chief and others in the future for his writings to remain recorded and kept in the libraries where these wise men had access to them to learn the details. And through that process, and possibly even being visited by the angel Gabriel, just as Zacharias was and Mary was, those wise men knew when Jesus was born via a celestial sign, and were able to arrange a visit that landed almost precisely 2 years after Jesus was born. Herod sent the wise men off to go find Jesus and asked that they come back to let him know. Clearly, his plan was to know where he was so he could go kill him. But since they were told by an angel not to return back to Herod, he became angry, when they didn't return. Originally, Herod had privately called the wise men to inquire of them diligently, which means accurately, what time the star appeared. And then Herod saw that he was being mocked, and he sent his soldiers to just kill all boys 2 years and younger. Not more than 2 years. It's the 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men, who had no reason than to give him the accurate time. And that is what diligently means, the accurate time. Fast forward to an event in Jesus' life when he needs to perform a miracle, the raising of Lazarus. But that miracle, because it's going to cause the women who see it to believe in him as the Messiah and rush off to Jerusalem on that day to tell the Pharisees and leaders and to tell all the people, causes what we understand is the event in Daniel 9, Messiah the Prince. Messiah the Prince in Daniel 9 is a declaration. It's happening at the very end on the last day of the year of the 69th week. And that last day of the year is going to be a new moon day, a black moon, and is going to be the fulfillment of that prophecy. So Jesus must be there only on that specific day to fulfill this miracle, which is going to cause the women to believe in him, as it says, that he's the king and the Messiah, and they're going to rush off in that moment and tell everyone. Now, Jesus knows the leaders will come for him, so he also immediately leaves at sunset, and he now has the darkness of the night without any moonlight to escape. About 8 or 9 days later, when he comes into Jerusalem, the word has now spread because of those women. Messiah the Prince declared, last day of the year. And so now, after the 69 weeks, the Messiah is cut off within the middle of a 7-day week. And that's exactly the way we read our Gospels. Lazarus dies and is resurrected, and then within a few weeks is the Jesus on the cross. And so Daniel 9's question, which of the last 7 years represents the year of Jesus dying and resurrecting on the cross? Well, it's the first year of the 7 years, with Lazarus being the event of Messiah the Prince, which means Jesus has been anointed king just 2 months prior on another solar eclipse, which we understand is the Transfiguration. And so the question of why does Jesus wait 2 days before he goes to resurrect Lazarus from the dead? He's literally watching the moon to become a new moon and timing his travel so that he's there to perform that miracle on the new moon in order to precisely fulfill the moment of Daniel 9, Messiah the Prince, watching the celestial sign and making sure that the actions of his life coincide with the appointed time of the prophecy. And that is the answer to why Jesus waits 2 days.
In order to have a visual representation of what the signs look like and how they operate, I'm taking you to Wednesday, April the 9, 27 AD. This is the sunset time when our Lord's body is being placed into the tomb, just before the beginning of Nisan 15. Many may say right away, hey, 27 AD is not the year that I was thinking of, or that I've always figured was the year that Jesus died. The foundation for any other year you're thinking is incorrect. Daniel 7 talks about the haughty-eyed little horn who, among other things, changed laws and changed dates. The correct date is 27 AD. We know Herod died in 4 BC, and that is corroborated with a celestial sign, a blood moon. That blood moon also happened on the day of the regularly celebrated fast of Purim, Adar 13. It was a March 13 at the beginning of 4 BC. As discussed concerning the date that the wise men gave to Herod being an accurate date, Jesus was born 2 years earlier, 6 BC. He had 6 full BC years and 24 full AD years, arriving at 30 completed years old. So when he starts his ministry, it's now 25 AD. And then he has a 2-year ministry to 26 AD. And he dies 27 AD. That is the simple math. There are many other ways to corroborate 27 AD. The first thing you see on this day is the verse that represents the first seal in graphic format. A white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. This verse is describing the constellation Sagittarius. Jesus is being represented as the rider of this horse with a bow. He's called the archer because he never misses a mark. To sin is to miss the mark. He conquered on the cross. At this time, Jupiter, being in this constellation, is here on this particular year. Jupiter is in other constellations in all the other 13 years of its orbit. It's only going to be in this constellation in this year. No other year of any reasonable time frame will Jupiter be in this constellation. Jupiter represents the hand of the clock, and where Jupiter stops, that's the year, and it stops on top of the biblical verse. And this is how the sign, as we discussed as Jacob's ladder, is connected to the verse. So quite literally, what you're looking at is the exact day, the exact year, the exact day of the week, a Wednesday, and the exact time that they were putting Jesus in the tomb. And this would have near perfect accuracy. Of course, it's on a Wednesday because he resurrects sunset Saturday. As Jesus said, he would only be in the tomb for 3 full days and 3 full nights. That would be all of Thursday, all of Friday, and all of Saturday. Sunset to sunset, to sunset to sunset. On this day, at this very same exact time, you have all these other signs, 4 more, all occurring at the same time. The full moon is at the feet of Virgo that represents Israel. This is the Passover time. This is the moment that they have arrived to the Egyptian border with the wilderness. And now they have to travel at night over a wilderness filled with rocks. And they need the light of the moon at their feet to see their way on their journey. And that's why the full moon is at the feet of Virgo. The first day of the lunar calendar is always the new moon, and the 15 is always the full moon. And so here it is. This full moon could have been anywhere else, but no, at this moment, at this significant moment, the full moon is at her feet, right where it needs to be on a Passover exodus. We find Mars and Saturn in Taurus the bull. And as the heading accurately describes, this is an image of the red heifer. The red heifer was a sign of the process by which Jesus was crucified. It's the perfect sacrificial animal. This animal had stringent guidelines of perfection in order to qualify as a red heifer. The Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, and it's in Aries, the ram, and I call this the ram caught in a thicket. The nature of this ram was a sacrifice in place of Isaac.
Malachi 4 verses 1 to 2. For, behold, the day cometh, that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth, and grow up as calves of the stall.
Pisces. Mercury and Venus are evenly spaced on either side of the constellation, highlighting the two-fish ministry of Jesus, in which he conquers the souls for God and wins people to the faith through his sacrifice and his subsequent ministry headed up by his 12 apostles. And so it's known as the ministry of the two fish. That's the common insignia, often seen in the tile work of early Christian churches. Here we have the miracle of seeing 5 significant signs scripturally connected. Signs and symbols, all related to Jesus, related to the Passover, related to Israel, and they're happening all at the same time.
There's so much more that can be said in the scriptures about the celestial signs. And Lamps Full Understandings has discovered many of the signs, and many more yet to publish, that let us know what they look like and how to read them, and eventually know how to apply them to prophecy. The Revelation contains about 9 verses that relate to celestial signs, and without them, you cannot put Revelations in order or understand the timing of the Revelation events. And so more will come. Continue to like and subscribe to Lamps Full Understandings. If you would like to see and understand the celestial signs, or by all means acquire the basic tools you need to use Lamps Full Understandings as a set of lessons by which you can go view them for yourself. You may make discoveries that Lamps Full Understandings has not made yet. We are sure there is much more than we have learned so far. May God be with you in these momentous times. Now is the time to do everything you personally can to have your personal lamp full of oil.
Lamps Full Understandings. Subscribe, then like. You can help another attain until salvation. Spread the good news. Subscribe and like now. Bless your family and friends. Share now.